So name it. It's Zoom, change, decision, compassion. Now there's conflict. It's just like fill in the blank, fatigue. Can somebody mute their microphone? Thanks. So what this has led to is adults struggling with their mental health. Depression and anxiety increased from 1 in 10 to 1 in 4. And just something came across my desk that it's 1 in 3. There was an article that came out just yesterday from Total Brain showing that there was an 86% increase in depression, more increase and another increase in alcohol use. So we're really seeing the impact of this pandemic. 36% of people are experiencing difficulty sleeping, difficulty eating, increase in alcohol use, worsening of chronic conditions. More due to traditional roles, more women than men have been struggling. More younger adults with suicidal ideation. Our son has major depressive disorder and he got suicidal again during COVID and he's doing great. This is a disease like any other and there's hope for recovery, but it really is affecting a lot of us. There's been an increased use of alcohol and drugs. That's already compounded for people that are already living with a mental illness. What we found also is that 34% of people recovering from COVID are experiencing depression or anxiety. And now there's a lot of long haul COVID that employers are having to deal with employees and maybe themselves or family and friend. So again, we're coming out of this, but now we have to deal with it as well. So that creates stress, which can impact our mental health through depression, anxiety, mood swings, or irritability. And it also creates real physical health symptoms with headaches, stomach aches. Well, it doesn't always. Sleeplessness, anger, low energy. And stress can also lead to diabetes, heart disease, and high blood pressure. So it's not all doom and gloom. The good thing is there are steps that we can take, and we're going to talk about some of the positivity and some general self-care. The thing that I do want to point out, and I've been talking to people about this lately, is it would be so great. I used to work for DuPont. I was a trainer in pharmaceuticals. And, there's no magic bullet or silver bullet or magic pill that we can take. It requires some effort. But the good thing is we can incorporate it into our habits and just take little bits of things to improve our better health. So addressing stress, if we can just remember the three things that really create the foundation of good mental health, and that is physical activity, nutrition, and sleep. So consider getting 30 to 60 minutes a day, 3 to 5 times per week. It doesn't have to be a boot camp. It's really just about moving our body and what works for you. The days are longer. We can get out. It's getting a little warmer. There's less ice. You can get outside. You can break up that time into 3 10-minute breaks a day, doing 10 exercises at 3 different times to get your heart rate up. Take breaks throughout the day. Have nutritious snacks available. Again, sometimes there are food deserts and we don't always have access to nutritious food, but as much as you can, try to get healthier items, meaning this isn't food moralizing, but fruits, vegetables, getting good fiber, getting good protein, reducing those highly processed foods. Drink more water. I'm going to encourage you to do that throughout the presentation. Try to go to bed at the same time and keep a routine. On average, adults are recommended to get 7 to 9 hours per night. If you're getting 5 or more on a regular basis for over 2 weeks, check your sleep hygiene. That can really lead to mental health issues as well as physical health issues. So maybe check on the conditions that help you sleep better. Now it's getting a little lighter. Maybe you need to use an eye mask or get darker curtains. If you have your phone by your bed, keep your face down so that light isn't awakening you during the night, because that can affect us, especially between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. So let's get to the meat of our presentation, positive psychology. This is an arm of psychology that is relatively new. It started in 1998. And what it focuses on are our strengths. And what we have found, or what, not me personally, or we at NAMI, but clinicians have found, is that people who are positive are more creative, able to experiment with new information, concentrate better, and achieve more and have higher academic success also. They are more optimistic, which leads to resilience. They live longer, positive people, and positive people are less vulnerable to illness, and that's what's building that resilience. last spring, there was an article in the paper from a woman that was, I think she had celebrated her 101st birthday, and I was going to look it up for this presentation and I forgot. But she said it was a positive attitude that did it and staying connected with people. So positivity can equal longevity. It started, as I mentioned, in 1998 from, we're going to call him Dr. Mike. He had written a book called Flow, and he was vacationing in Hawaii and got caught in an undercurrent and was getting crashed, thrown up against some rocks, and barely survived and made his way out. And then coincidentally, Professor Martin Seligman was there to help him and took him to the lifeguard station. And they started talking about positive psychology and how we can focus on our strengths and taking this idea of flow. And I'm sure that all of you can imagine a time where either you're working or things are just really coming and you're in that zone, or you're exercising. And I remember thinking about it last winter when I was skiing up in Lutsen, and I was like, I'm one with the mountain. So that is tapping into our strengths and that positive energy. So what positive psychology does is it encourages people to discover and nurture their character strengths rather than challenging our efforts into correcting shortcomings. There was a big management style a while ago, but really focus on those weaknesses and strengthen them. But we have our strengths for a reason. They are our birthright, our God-given talent, however you want to say it, but we are given them as our gifts and our strengths. Where we aren't as strong, others are. So that's how we can collaborate together. But what positive psychology does, again, is it's focusing on our strengths. But it also highlights the need for us to shift from our negative outlook to a more optimistic outlook to improve quality of life. So when this whole arm of psychology was starting, it was when we had originally imagined, or the medical community, that your brain stopped developing. I mean, you've heard all those milestones with kids, and they thought that at a certain point our brains stopped developing. But what we have learned over time is that our brains have neuroplasticity. They're malleable. The more we use it, the more we use it. And there was an interesting study from England, in London, England in 2000, of London cab drivers. And what they found was that from reading those maps and take a drink of water, everybody. They have hypothesized that everybody would have the same neural pathways. But what they found was the cab drivers that had been doing it the longest and were actually the oldest had larger area of their brain from reading those maps. And so up until then, we thought that the brain was a fixed structure. And this was one really eye-opening study that our brains are malleable and we can learn new things. So the definition of neuroplasticity is it's our brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. That's why it's great to do puzzles, why it's great to learn new things, and it can help us learn new things. We've learned that the brain has the ability to enhance existing cognitive capabilities. We've learned through neuroplasticity and starting to look at this that people can recover from strokes and traumatic brain injuries. We can strengthen some areas if some functions are lost or decline, and it really promotes brain fitness. So in this graphic, so to speak, you can see the path on the left with the greenery is a path that's trodden more. So if you use these visuals of our neural pathways, the more you use them, the more they stay open and the wider they can get. Whereas if we don't use them, they start to grow over, and it's the synapses start closing down. And if you want to get into really geek out on neuroscience, there's a lot of really great podcasts on it. But we've also learned this, I have experience in doing adverse childhood experiences and trauma. And really when there's trauma experience, some of those pathways shut down and those synapses are closed, but we are able to regenerate them. So plasticity. So what's that look like? I'm going to jump ahead here is to positive psychology is strength training for our brain. We want to reinforce the neural pathways of love, gratitude, safety, peace, and calm. So if you look at some of our traditional philosophers and modern day philosophers, it really is what we dwell on is what we become. That's from Oprah Winfrey. Buddha says we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts. With our thoughts, we make the world. And even Socrates, we are what we think we are. So when we look in the mirror, do we see a cat or do we see a lion? Or I like dogs. Do we see a puppy or do we see a wolf? And we really want to, this is what you guys are going to do, is strength training for your brain. So our brain is a muscle just like any other one, and we can build the strength, which creates resilience, which makes just life a lot easier. And then also, I love the neuroscience. It also can help control our emotional fears. We don't get back into that amygdala. So in times of stress, we don't run out and buy all the toilet paper. I mean, that's what was happening in the beginning of the pandemic. People were reacting from fear-based. As leaders, it's also great to lead your team with positive psychology. It helps them realize that we can get through this. And it does have a ripple effect through your team, your family, your loved ones, your friends, and the larger community. So going back to that amygdala, there is something called negativity bias. And we pick up negative information much better and much quicker than positive information. Now, I will tell you, we do these evaluations, and not like I'm blowing my own horn or anything, but my evaluations are always really good. And occasionally there's a comment. Do you think I look at the 10, 20 positive? I just focus on that, one negative. And so we're just hardwired for that. And it is suggested that we need 3 times as many positive to counteract 1 negative. So it's something to think about when you're thinking about yourself, when you're working with coworkers, spouses, loved ones, children, 3 to 1. So, oh, wow, I see a little something in the middle of that picture there. Some psychologists believe that negative thoughts exist because our brains have evolved this built-in negative bias. From an evolutionary perspective, avoiding dangers such as predators and hostile neighbors is more urgent than pursuing rewards such as food, shelter, and reproduction. In other words, it's less important to eat lunch and more important to not be lunch today. So it's also interesting to note, if you think about our evolution, and we did have to get away from lions and tigers and bears a lot, but now those predators aren't quite as obvious, and we aren't able to release all that stress either. Cortisol, when we get into a stressful situation, whether it's a coworker or a colleague or COVID or masks and not masks or even the Ukraine, our body goes into fight or flight. And we are hardwired for that for 20 minutes to have a quick reaction if we need to get out of the way of a car or move our hand from something burning or get away from a toxic situation. But that constant fight or flight wears on us. And you may have heard surge capacity. We are tapped out. We just don't have enough surge capacity to kind of power through it, when you have to power through something. So that's where we can practice positive psychology to help counteract that. So our first tool for the day is our first brain tool or thought training is to do 3 reps of gratitude each day. So for at least 1 week, choose 3 things that are positive. And I would say get in the habit of doing this on a regular basis. In all my presentations, we talk about gratitude. It is scientifically proven to improve your mental health. So you can start a gratitude journal. You can just do it when you wake up right away, but think about 3 things that are positive that happened today or that you're grateful for. They don't have to be like this huge, I bought a house or I'm going on vacation. I do it when I wake up, and a lot of times it is my first thought is, I'm so thankful for these flannel sheets. I'm thankful for this day. You can be thankful for the cup of coffee you're going to have or for having this time right now. I'm thankful to be able to share this time with you right now, just significant or insignificant. And it could be the same thing every day. It's just to get into that habit of practicing gratitude. They strengthen the neural pathways by really concentrating on the good in your day. So I'd like you all to we're going to take a break for just a moment. If you feel comfortable, throw 3 things in the chat that you're thankful for. And if you don't want to do that, just think of 3 things that you're grateful for. Okay, I love these bears. If there's anything in there, Erin, if you want to share, otherwise we'll just keep going and move along. If you are going to write down, if you are going to journal per se, because this could be part of a journaling activity, but it is recommended that if you're going to journal, to keep your gratitude journal separate from your regular journal, because journaling can help us just put any fears down, or it also helps with depression and anxiety to name what you're thinking about, or maybe perhaps overwhelmed with. But it's important to keep our gratitude separate so we can just focus on gratitude. Excuse me.
We have some grateful folks that are sharing. My family's coming up, faith,
Yes.
job, health, sunshine.
Yeah.
I would throw in there coffee. I thought that was a good one.
I'm thankful for coffee.
Yeah. But family is definitely up there. Faith is up there. Health.
Mm-hmm.
Those are some top ones.
Gosh, thanks for sharing. And see, just so easy as that. And then it reminds us of the good things, because there's a lot of negativity going around right now. So that was our first tool, gratitude. Our second tool is luck or reframing. And I love these little clovers here with St. Patrick's Day coming up. But just peeking at my notes to make sure I don't miss anything here. So I'd like you to think a little bit about luck, or reframing as we say it. And one great thing to think about is you never know what worse luck your bad luck has saved you from. And if you think about that for a minute, I imagine that you can find a time where something bad happened, but it could have been so much worse. For example, when I was talking to a colleague, her daughter had slipped in the ice in the driveway, and she cracked her head open. And had she gone 1, centimeter lower, she would have lost her eye. So, wow, that was bad luck. She cracked her head, but it could have been so much worse. So think about reframing that. There's a parable of a Chinese farmer, and you may have heard it. It's used a lot in leadership studies. My brother, who reads a lot of that, was familiar with it. But it talks about a farmer, and he had 1 horse, and it ran away. And all the neighbors said, "Oh, you have such bad luck. You have such bad luck." But then the horse came back, and it came back with 3 wild horses. So then he had 4 horses to farm. And the neighbor said, "Oh," and the farmer had said, "Well, I don't know if it's bad luck. We'll see, we'll see." And then now the neighbors were all going, "Oh, you have such good luck." And he said, "We'll see." Then his son got trampled during training with one of the horses and couldn't walk. And the neighbors were all, "Oh, it is such bad luck." And the farmer said, "We'll see." Well, then the army came through and they took all the male firstborns, and his son didn't have to go. So it's just a parable of how what we think could be bad luck actually could really be positive and good luck. So it's recommended to think about some of that good luck and think of yourself as lucky. And it's interesting, if you start reframing it, there's a way that you can just change your attitude. And it is shown that people who are luckier are happier. Studies show, and we'll never know 100% of the time if we're lucky. And we're not, of course, there are natural disasters that you can't really find any meaning for. But if we start looking at just the positivity and maybe reframing it, that can help also. So I'd like you to just think about what maybe your sliding door moment where that bad luck really could have turned into something that was good luck. There's a movie, I think it was probably in the early 90s, with Gwyneth Paltrow and an English actor whose name I cannot recall. But it does this whole parallel line of when she missed the train or didn't and what happened. And it was really interesting. because we don't always know what could have happened had we done something different. I know that my sliding door moment was during COVID, and my previous job, I ran a family services collaborative, and the grant got cut and the job had changed. So I had another job lined up, and then COVID hit and they didn't end up doing anything with it. And I was so disappointed, but then the opportunity with NAMI came that I would not have had I taken that other job. And this is a much better fit and I love it so much. So has there been a time that maybe you thought something was bad luck and it turned into good luck? And you can also think about just if you add a but to it. So I don't want to clean the house, but I'll feel better when it's over. Or I can't get this promotion and change it to, but maybe if I work with my boss, I can map out a plan. So just try to reframe those things. Our third tool is small gifts and compliments. So I love that. You are smart, you are super, but take a moment and think about a recent compliment you've gotten, you've received. Something small. And in fact, Erin and I was telling her how great her hair was this morning. And she said, wow, I just got a compliment. I did not plan that like that, but it just ties in it. It was nice for me. And then it's nice to receive one. So just think about a compliment you've gotten recently or that you've given. And how does that feel? The more we think about that, we reinforce the neural pathways. And now I'm going to actually, I'm going to do something a little different right now. We're going to go into compliments, but to just reinforce neural pathways of that warm glow, I'm going to have us do just another breathing exercise. And this is called hand heart. So I'd like you to put your hand over your heart for a minute. I can't see anybody's screens, but I'm assuming most of them are off. So close your eyes if you feel comfortable. And I just want you to take a moment and just that small warmth that you're giving yourself and the gift to yourself of your hand over your heart. And just take some deep breaths and exhale. We're not going to count or anything, just at your pace. And let your hand kind of expand into your heart a little bit and feel the warmth. And now I'd like you to think about a time that you felt safe and or loved and or cherished. Just a time that was safe, loved, and cherished. Whether that was with a friend, a loved one, a child, a therapist, your clergy, your animals. And just breathe into that warm feeling. And sit with that for a moment. You may feel a smile come to your face or a sigh escape. But I just want you to feel that warm glow. And as you come back to me and our third tool, try to keep that with you a little bit. And that's a small gift that you just gave to yourself. And I have not tied that into this before, so that was just so wonderful. So I really appreciate that. Those warm glows and those compliments can really warm our heart. And something that's interesting is that they activate the same pleasure center in the brain as giving people money. So I'm doing all this warm heart and I got that money there. So didn't plan that super great, but I just added that in. I think it was good. But giving someone a sincere compliment will make them happy and you as well. So you just gave yourself that wonderful gift. So think about those gifts, those compliments that we can warm our hearts. Let's talk about some compliments perhaps in the workplace. Appreciation shown to our team and our coworkers and ourselves, leading by example, makes us want to cooperate and collaborate with those around us. Knowing that we're appreciated helps us want to work through and overcome challenges. So what does that look like? Maybe calling out something specific shows the other person you're interested in paying attention. Perhaps it's letting a coworker know they ran a great meeting, or sharing with even a friend in that larger community that volunteer work they do is meaningful and that it really, you appreciate them for it. I got some of this information from Indeed, and I'm actually going to send this to Erin after. There was another great website that had some tips for teams. So one talks about acknowledging accomplishments right away, just a personal thank you or saying it during a staff meeting. Write out a thank you note. And it's great to send text too, but we've really gotten away from just that movement of our hand on paper and how meaningful that is. At NAMI, someone started, it was before I started, they're called You're Awesome. And they're just little cards that we fill out, a shout out to whomever for blank, and then thank you from. And we have a bulletin board and we stick them up there, or maybe you can do a wellness board on the intranet. But it's really fun. We still work mostly remotely, and we go in, and I had a couple there last week. So it's really nice, those little thank you notes. Thank your team publicly. The article one talked about on, they have TGIF, and every Friday afternoon they do a meeting and they give each other props, and that just builds teamwork. Celebrate traditions within your organization or your team, whether it's birthdays or annual events you do. Maybe create wellness days, Mindfulness Monday, Wellness Wednesday. Honor the anniversaries and the milestones, or maybe create a monthly team activity that can become a tradition that you can celebrate. Give people grace and space, ignore those small mistakes. We all have too much on our plate right now. Give yourself grace and space if you make a mistake. Consider incentives, whether it's remote working, flexible schedule, maybe extra continuing education or training, or gift cards. Maybe give extra time off. One company, a city that I worked with actually, gave their employees, they did a wellness series throughout the year, and every time they did one, they got an extra hour PTO, and then so they basically got a day off that they could take later. And consider buying treats or lunch for your team. Hard if you're still remote, but maybe it's some virtual thing that you send out pictures of donuts or something, or even gift cards for food. Food always works, especially chocolate. So giving and generosity activates regions in our brains associated with pleasure and connection with others and trust, that warm glow we talked about. Think about giving a gift to someone. Sometimes it's actually better giving than receiving. I just love giving gifts. It activates that pleasure center in our brain, and then we create more neural pathways. Studies show that giving can actually boost your physical and mental health, and it actually secretes feel-good chemicals in our brains. Serotonin, which is our mood-mediating chemical, dopamine, our feel-good chemical, oxytocin, which is our compassion and bonding chemical. Look at that, just from giving a compliment or writing a note, something so simple, no alcohol, drugs, food required, just giving or generosity. So here's an interesting study that I will share after we answer this. So which situation do you think would make you happiest? Spending money on yourself or spending on another? Take a drink of water if you have some, or tea, or whatever your beverage of choice is. So there was a study done at the University of British Columbia, and what they did was they gave people that wanted to participate on the street, they gave them money. I think it was $20, and they could either spend it on themselves or give it away. And then they had people come back in and report later in the afternoon. And what they found was that the people that gave the money were happier than the people that bought something for themselves. Oh, and it must have been two different amounts of money. And it didn't matter if it was $5 or the $20. It made no difference. So the act of giving, no matter how big or how small, makes us feel good. So consider those thank you notes, or again, one of these shout outs. Consider dropping off a piece of fruit at someone's desk if you're in the office, or flowers, or grabbing mail for someone, or anything you can do to help each other and just give and give back. And then you're happier too. So generally when we're in person, I have candy or treats or something, and I have everybody take one, and then I have everybody hand it to the person next to them. And it's really interesting, just that little bit of giving really helps us activate that warm glow feeling, and it creates more neural pathways. So maybe at your next team meeting, if you're in person, consider an activity like that where you have everybody give something to the person next to them. Starting to practice these gratitude tools. So we had the practicing gratitude, the reframing, and now giving and generosity. try to incorporate that into your culture, however that looks for you, to make it, not let this be a one and done. The more we practice this, the more it becomes part of our routine, which creates those neural pathways, which creates happiness and healthy hormones. And it actually has that ripple effect for everyone, our family, our friends, our coworkers, our colleagues. So it's important, I want to just put a little comment in here about self-care. We talked about addressing stress, but keep a daily routine. Once we find our purpose or what's purposeful and what's important through time management and keeping routines, it helps us stay less distracted. So we can focus on what's important. We don't get caught in some minutia that maybe needs to be done, but isn't part of a larger picture. So consider daily routines. We want to eat for our brain health. I talked about the serotonin being a feel-good hormone, which is activated with giving. But 95% of the serotonin is produced in our gut, and that is our mood regulating hormone. We used to think neck up and neck down, but the brain and the central nervous system is a super highway, so to speak, and it's connected. One thing connects another. So think about brain health, anti-inflammatory foods, less processed, protect your sleep. Our brain at night when we're sleeping has a glymphatic system. And what that does is flushes toxins out of our brain, and it also replenishes our brain. So it's really important to get quality sleep. Again, we're all going to have sleepless nights, but if you're seeing that it's sleeplessness for an extended period of time, try to check your routine, your sleep hygiene, go to bed at the same time. Keep a routine. I always wash my face, brush my teeth, and read a little bit. When we have a routine, it signals our body that it's time in this example, that it's time to go to sleep. If we're going to keep a daily routine or start journaling, make that a habit and have a special space for it as well. That signals us that this is something that we're going to do. For example, if you're going to journal or practice gratitude in a spot where you usually sit down and watch Netflix at night, it's harder to do. There's a really good book called Atomic Habits, which I haven't read the book, but I listened to the podcast, but it talks more about those routines. Practice that breathing. Just inhale for 4, exhale for 6, however breathing you want, or heart to hand. That's a moment of mindfulness that can calm our mind and bring us back to the present moment. And practice that gratitude, 3 good things. If you are finding that you're doing all of this and you are really still having a hard time, in our Minding Your Mental Health during COVID class, I talk about building the toolbox, and that's all these tools, whether it's self-care with nutrition, diet, exercise, journaling, finding your quiet place, etc. You're doing all these things. You're practicing your positivity. You're practicing your gratitude. And you're still feeling, or you're noticing in others, overly emotional, bursting into tears or angry, difficulty concentrating, difficulty screening out stimuli or patterns of tardiness or absence, that stamina or decreased interest in your things that used to bring you joy. Maybe you're having a hard time handling time pressures, or you're getting those physical symptoms of pain, headaches, backaches, or we're turning to those unhealthy mechanisms of alcohol, drugs, or appetite. That's what's important to look for some help. Reach out to your primary care provider. Check out therapists who are in your network, whatever EAP resources or benefits you have. Learn what resources are available to you. If you're comfortable, tell your manager if you're struggling, or create accommodations and create a culture where people can come to you with comfort. So that means posting EAP resources. Share information from NAMI. We have a wonderful health library. We have amazing support groups that are all free. Use support systems to help reduce stress levels. I did add this last month because for the first time in history, therapists are experiencing the same thing their clients are, and it's been hard to get into a therapist just because so many people are trying to access them. So finding help can sometimes be challenging. So consider reaching out to another therapist, talk to your clinician if you need to. You can encourage your employees to do this as well. Sometimes a doctor can get them into a therapist sooner. We partner with an organization called Fast Tracker. It's fasttracker.org. They provide lists of providers in your area. There are support groups available. Online therapy has been super beneficial. There are peer support groups. You can find those online. There's lots of self-help resources through books and handouts and PDFs. We have a huge health library at NAMI. There are emergency hotlines, do that 24/7. The National Suicide Hotline is 1-800-273-8255. And if it's really bad, go to the emergency room. So our takeaways today, this is one of our shorter classes, and then we'll have time for Q&A if you have any, is remember about that neuroplasticity. We are what we think. We can change those neural pathways. So look at yourself as a lion, a tiger, or a bear. Reinforce those neural pathways of love. Think of the heart to hand, the gratitude. What are you thankful for? Safety. I know we can all find some moments of safety even when it's really hard, and the peace and the calm. So our takeaway is the 3 good things. There's a handout on 3 good things that you can look with some links. We want to reframe our thoughts. Think of things as lucky. And you never know what your bad luck kept you from worse luck. And it's really interesting. And I actually, in prepping for this, I haven't done this class for a couple of months, but every time when I do the class, I start thinking about it more. And it's really amazing when you can see how lucky we really are. We're lucky to be in this beautiful state. We're lucky to be provided this information. And it doesn't discount the bad stuff that's out there. But the only way that we're really going to move forward is to start with ourselves, with positivity and self-care. And think about those small gifts, the compliments, the notes, and the giving. So as we wrap up, I actually would just like you all to, we talked about 3 good things, talked about luck, talked about those small gifts. Try to incorporate that into your day. That's the take home. And breathing and drinking water. So what we do at NAMI are education classes like these. We have booklets and fact sheets. We do suicide prevention. We do twice a month publicly for free. Question, Persuade, Refer, QPR, which is like CPR for suicide prevention. It's recommended that anyone over 16 take it. It's a national program. There's just a few people that are trained in it at NAMI. We do support groups. We have a helpline. We do public awareness presentations, like I mentioned, the suicide awareness. We advocate legislatively, and the legislature's in session. The end of September, last Saturday of September, we do a NAMI walk. You can advocate for a better health system. We have our family night on April 1st. You can check our website, namimn.org, if you'd like to participate. We have affiliates, newsletters, sponsor volunteers, become a member and or a donor. So I would just like to, I'm going to stop the screen and stop sharing for a moment because I'm going to get the evaluation here. I'm actually going to copy it from here. I think a copy's better. And then if you wouldn't mind doing this, I'm going to throw it in the chat. If you wouldn't mind taking a moment to do this, you can just click on the link and it'll open in another tab. Oh, thanks. And Erin already put it in there. Awesome. And then I'm just going to open this up to questions or comments or anything that you all would like to talk about or share. Or
Say, Catherine, we know we're recording this. We're going to plug it in on our website so anyone can look at the session later or share it. Can we also attach your PowerPoint slide deck and make that available?
We don't do our PowerPoint, sorry.
Okay.
But you have the conversation, and then the handouts basically go over everything. And you know what else I'll do? I'll add another one, the Minding Your Mental Health. It was so funny. It was during COVID, and then it was going to be post-COVID. Now it's COVID-19 and beyond. So that has actually really great tips on it for self-care. And it goes into, well, just has a lot more tips from here. So I will do that.
And I'm just putting our website link to where we've housed all the wonderful NAMI resources. I'm sending that through the chat right now, so folks have that in front of them.
Awesome. Yeah, so I really appreciate your time. I had, my girlfriend gave me this poetry book, and I didn't think I liked poetry, but she's given me a couple of them, and they're more not traditional poetry, but I just read the other day and I thought, oh, that's so perfect. It's clean out your thoughts. They could cover your entire world with dirt. And it was just kind of interesting. So just think about those thoughts and reframing and positivity.
Oh, very helpful. Catherine, your session today has been so timely, and we are grateful for you and this informative session. We really are. And all the helpful tools you shared to help strengthen our brains and our positive outlook. We'll plug in this recording and the handouts Catherine's been referring to on our website. So you can check our website maybe in a day or two, and those hopefully will be up there for you. We will be sending out a separate email with the link to the session evaluation and again, the link directly to the mental health webpage on our website. So you'll have that in front of you. So look for that, attendees, and so grateful for all the attendees that joined us today. You've been wonderful. And I don't see any other, if anyone has any questions, another minute or so, we'll leave this open for you to ask any other questions you might have.
I'll throw my contact info up here too, if anybody wants to reach out. But I laugh, I have the longest name, title, and email address. But it's Catherine Christensen. I'm the Employee Wellness Educator. You can find me at NAMI Wellness Educator at NAMIMN.org, and then NAMIMN.org for any access to any of our other tools. And then there's the 800 number 888 NAMI helps, which is, I was just like, our local number is 651-645-2948. I should actually learn what NAMI helps. Numbers are because you're like trying to spell it out. So anyway, really appreciate your time. Practice gratitude. Take care of yourselves. And sorry, Erin, you were going to say?
Oh, just someone, you're getting, thank you. Great session today. And yeah, we just hope everyone has a good, sunny, lucky rest of the week.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, try the reframing. It makes a difference. I guarantee it. So, yeah. Oh, good. Thanks for putting my email address in there. All right. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.